And what made that even more special was being requested to referee that match by those involved. I come in, I even remember the town, going to TV at Little Rock, Arkansas, and seeing Edge there, and hey, Edge, sir, what's up? He says, hey, Jimmy, how are you? Can I talk to you for a minute? I said, absolutely. So, brought me to the side, and he said, talk to Taker, and we want you to referee our match at WrestleMania.
What's up, Bengal fans? It's your host, Joey Karni, and I want to thank you for clicking on this video. It was an amazing experience, and I can't wait for you to watch the full episode and enjoy it just as much as I did filming it. Now, if you haven't already, please like and subscribe down below to stay up to date with all the Angles activity right here on YouTube. Now enjoy the show.
Let's go, let's go!
With me today is a legendary figure in, well, everything pro wrestling, but really the Zebra Stripes. He's one of the longest tenured referees in history, and he's the host of Ref and Rants, which, by the way, is an excellent show on Twitter. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Jimmy Korderas. How are you? And welcome to the Angle Podcast.
Well, thank you. And thank you, Joey, for calling me legendary. At least somebody thinks so anyway. But man, I appreciate you having me on. And the Ref and Rants, I love doing them. I have fun with them. And I hope other people find them fun. And I try to, again, it's my opinion. I give little takes. I try to be a positive person, but when there's a little critique there, hey. And I try to keep them short too, because the attention span, sometimes.
Which I love, by the way. They're short and sweet and to the point, and they really just hit where they need to hit. So, I do appreciate you always doing those. But like I was telling you before we started recording, I really do like to highlight value of people who I've been a fan of. I know people who've been a fan of as well. And that's not just the superstars in and around the ring. It's also the referees and different people that go into or really help make up what we like today as, pro wrestling. And like I said, that includes the referees as well, which, you being who you are, is there really anyone better to talk to?
Well, there is Tommy Young, but I don't know if he's available right now. So,
so I know you've been out of really kind of out of business for quite a while. So what have you been up to?
Well, once I got out of the business, again, there you go. When I left WWE in 2009, I took some time away because, had some issues with the family. My father was sick and so forth, and we were looking after things there. And when I got the call from WWE, I also was told that anytime you feel like coming back, give us a call. The door is always open. But I don't know. It was so weird. I wanted so badly to go back, but at the same time, I was enjoying spending time with my family. You know what I mean? Because that road schedule takes its toll on your family. You don't get to see them. You see them like a day and a half, 2 days a week.
Yeah.
So it is a tough schedule. So I like that. But then after I left, I did an interview and I spoke. I don't remember who it was I spoke with, but I like talking. And I said, you know what? So I took a little course in broadcasting. A short little course in broadcasting. And then I met Arda Ocal, who's now with ESPN, was at WWE for a short time as Kyle Edwards. And he was working at the Score Television Network up here, which was the partner with WWE. They aired WWE programming up here. And he says, he had a show called Right After Wrestling that would go on Sirius XM after Raw live. Yeah. And he said, would you come on the show one day? And I said, yeah, man, love to. So I went down to the studio, we watched the show live, and we just, shot it back and forth and gave our critiques, what we liked, what we didn't like, wins and fails, as we used to call them back in the day. And then he said, hey, do you want to be a regular on here? And I said, man, I'd love to. And then that morphed into Aftermath. And I've been doing that up until this year. And, when the pandemic hit, kind of put things on hold. But so now I'm just right now concentrating on my Ref and Rant, and hopefully that evolves into something a little more. But we'll see. There are some irons in the fire. Let's put that.
Yeah, and I see it. Ref and Rant's really getting some steam on Twitter, but I will jump into that in a little while. I do want to touch base on what you just mentioned, and that's the pandemic. And wrestling finally is back to having fans live in attendance. You being a part of the business for so long, how do you feel about seeing fans back? And what do you think the biggest change was, knowing the business for so long, seeing fans not in attendance?
That's the hardest part, because since the inception of this business, the immediate and live reaction of the fan is what, you base who's the babyface, who's the heel, all the storytelling. Guys who are very good in the ring can adjust mid-match. Hey, we're not getting a response doing this. We got to change direction. Let's try this and see if this works and see if that gets a response. So that live immediate feedback is what tells you if you're doing it right or doing it wrong. Everybody talks about, wow, you have to do it this way. Yes, that's true. But if this way isn't working, you have to be able to adapt. And the live audience helps you adapt. When there's no live audience there and you have, let's say, piped in noise like they had at the Thunderdome and stuff like that, yes, you're getting the reaction at home that you want the people at home to hear, but it's not that authentic live reaction, which is a difference. And, and I do applaud AEW. I know people have this misconception that I have an issue with them. I don't. I critique their stuff, but I'm entertained by their stuff. And I have friends there that I want to see succeed, and I want that company to succeed as well. But what I like what they did was, although on a limited basis, they did have some fans there at Daly's place.
Yeah.
So you did get that reaction and it helped. But now that you're in front of a bigger audience and you hear that reaction, you could see it in the talent. You could see it in the performers. They are feeding off this. And that's what this business has been predicated on since day one.
Of course. And you can see today, even in WWE, the heels, cracking a smirk here and there with the live crowds, really being able to feel it again. And some not like, for example, Dominic Mysterio finally having that fan reaction, being in front of a live crowd for the first time. I mean, when have you ever heard of a champion in WWE never being in front of a live crowd? I mean,
yeah, exactly. And I could only imagine what it's like. And especially for me, remembering Dominic as this little guy that used to be around backstage and say, hey buddy, how you doing? Kind of thing. And now seeing him in the ring, it's incredible.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And, being who you are, being that you are one of the longest tenured referees in the history, how did you break into being a referee and specifically getting signed to WWE?
Okay, when I'm here in Toronto, and I, born, raised, lived my entire life here in Toronto, and I used to frequent the shows at Maple Leaf Gardens. And to make a very long story short, I used to take pictures of the boys, and I'd come back the next show and sell them. That would fuel my wrestling habit, pay for my ticket, pay for my parking, all that kind of stuff. But the guy that used to take the pictures for the program up here caught me selling them outside Maple Leaf Gardens and gave me the old, you can't do that, it's illegal kind of thing. I said, yeah, well, who are you? And then he told me he was, and I went, oh, you know what I mean? This guy, his name is Elio Zarlenga. And he says, you take some pretty good pictures. I don't want to bust your chops. Don't do it in front of the Maple Leaf Gardens. Just, go down a block or so and do it there. And I'm okay. We became friends. And then he introduced me to Jack, hopefully get me a job as his assistant, as a photographer, taking pictures ringside, which I thought would be cool. And Jack said, well, we don't need another photographer. We'll find something for the kid to do. So I was doing the odd jobs, the runner kind of thing, and doing that for Jack Tunney back at the time, WWF president Jack Tunney. And I got to know Pat Paterson very well. He, one main agent, and real smart and good dude. And he just said to Jack one day, he says, hey Jack, we got the kid here. He's he does all the work for us before and after the show, but during the show he just sits around and waits for the show to end. Why don't we use him? Why don't we make him a referee? And Jack said to him, well, do we want to smarten the kid up? And Pat says to him, he's in the locker room with the boys. He hangs out with the guys. Yeah. He kind of has an idea what's going on. Let's utilize that, right? So Pat told me to get black sneakers, black pants, a blue shirt, and a black bow tie, and carry it with me all the time. But that's all he said. And I didn't think enough to ask questions and ask the other refs for advice at the time. You know what I mean? Yeah. So one day, Chief Jay Strongo comes up to me. This is early '87. And we're at a live house show here in Newmarket, Ontario. And he says, hey, Jimmy Jam, because that was his nickname for me. Yeah. Jimmy Jam, you got your ref's gear with you? And I said, yes, I do, Chief. He says, put it on, you're reffing tonight. And I didn't want to say, but I've never done it before. You know what I mean? I said, okay, cool. What am I doing? He says, you're refereeing SD Jones versus Jose Luis Rivera, who was the Red Demon at the time under the mask. And luckily, I was good friends with SD. So I went up to SD and I said, SD, I'm reffing your match tonight. He says, that's great. I said, I've never reffed a match before. He says, stay close to me, listen to me. I will talk you through it. You'll be fine. and I was nervous as hell, but he got me through it. And and from there it was just asking questions, going to everybody, all the other refs, even some of the talent, and saying, what do I do here? What do you want done in this circumstance? And just the one thing I learned most of all is you never stop learning, and be a sponge. Take everything in as much as you can.
Yeah. And I've always been curious, even, growing up I've been a wrestling fan my entire life. And I've always wondered, how does one get into becoming a referee? Like, is there, training for it? Is there something like a science behind it? How do you, if, someone watching and listening today wanted to break into that, how would they go about that?
It's different today because back when I broke in, it was kind of like that. Okay. Like, for example, Joey Morello was Gorilla Monsoon's son. Yeah. So he got introduced to the business that way. And then a lot of the referees back in the day were guys who were workers that, they transitioned into refereeing, so on and so forth. Now, you can go to a wrestling school, not only to learn to wrestle, but also to learn to referee. And I think in a sense that may be I'm sure there are other avenues to get in, but I think that would be the best, because at a wrestling school, you will learn all aspects of the business, because other than just refereeing. Yeah. You get to learn little things, one of the things I was fortunate enough was not only was I learning from the referees, but I was learning from the boys as well, getting their feedback, learning about telling a story in the ring. What is the role of the referee in the ring? How noticeable or unnoticeable the referee should be, and that sort of stuff, and that can be taught. But then again, at the same time, you have to look natural, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And you've been a part of some great moments in WWE history. I mean, WrestleMania main events, even some tragic ones as well. What goes into preparing for those type of matches? I mean, do you have to like I don't even know what goes into preparing for those type of matches?
It's interesting because each match is different. You mentioned WrestleMania and being blessed to get to referee a main event at WrestleMania, which you say to yourself, you don't want to prepare any differently for this, but this is WrestleMania. And now, the butterflies are there, the nerves are there, and you want to be there for the guys, because as I say, a referee should be invisible until he needs to be visible, but the referee's job is to help the talent tell their story and not be a distraction, and not be like someone who's, oh, I'm loving this match. Oh, what's the referee doing? No, you don't want to hear the fan go, hey, what's he doing in the background over there? You're like that supporting actor that everybody goes, hey, that guy looks familiar. Where do I know him from? Yeah. But as far as preparing goes, I would listen to the guys talk about the match, kind of like the fly on the wall. What do you need me to do? Is there anything you need me to do here? What is the finish? That was the important thing, of course. And again, try to be as inconspicuous as possible, but at the same time, help them tell their story.
Of course. And the process, kind of like what you just mentioned. So they speak to producers, they find out what's going on, what the finish is. They come to you and say, listen, this is what we're going to do, kind of go over everything with you. And then they go out. Is that kind of how the process works?
Pretty much. Yeah. And it's funny because even back then, they would structure a match and put it together, and, and there would be some ad-libbing along the way. And of course, house show completely different from TV, because house show, you're a little more lax, you're a little more flexible with what you can do. TV, you're so time constrained, and you've got that earpiece in your ear as a referee, and you have to kind of relay messages, sort of, hey, we got it, 6 minutes left, 4 minutes left, we got to go home, that kind of stuff. And, and also you got to relay those messages without looking like, hey, I'm relaying a message.
And like we've been talking about, you've been in refereeing business for over 20 years. Today, what do you think has changed the most in pro wrestling?
For me, and this isn't just, yes, I do critique the reffing in AEW, but I think this goes across the board. I don't think that the referees are utilized properly nowadays. I think they take them for granted. And when it comes to stuff like distracting the referees or whatever the case may be, I don't think they put enough thought into it. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Like, for example, Money in the Bank not too long ago, when Charles took that bump from Edge, when Edge landed on his knee. I like that because that was different. It wasn't your typical, oh, he gets knocked. And he got hit on the side of the knee. He rolled out of the ring and he sold his leg. It's a little bit different, took him out of the match in a different sense. Yeah. I think sometimes, and I hate to put it this way, they get a little lazy with the, okay, just hop up on the apron, you go stay with him until he hops down, or, and stuff like that. And they're over there for like 30, 40 seconds doing something behind the ref's back. It just looks, for me, it feels lazy.
Yeah.
I don't like, I like incorporating the referees, distracting, but let's do it in a manner that makes sense. Yeah. It doesn't look like
ties the story together somewhat. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and in today, like you were just saying, we're seeing referees getting more attention, especially in AEW. Fans are fans of the referees today.
Right.
And fans really do know more of who they are. And obviously that's because of social media, things like that. But how do you feel about that? Like you just said, the referee is supposed to be kind of in the back, being a part of the show, but not really being the center. And now we're seeing more of that.
Yeah, I think there's I hate to pick on AEW, for example, but it feels like their referees are becoming more characters. And as I stress, the referee does not draw money. It's the talent that draws money. And like, for example, there's one referee in particular that tends to sell moves being done to someone else like they're taking the move. Like overselling what is happening to someone else. That just drives me bonkers. It's like if they get punched in the face, you don't grab your face. You can do the same thing with a subtle, like, let's say somebody throws what looks like a devastating punch. You can like, ooh, that looked like it. You know what I mean? You don't have to go, oh, and there was one instance where I saw somebody put a wrist lock, a simple wrist lock, and they were holding their wrist like they were in the wrist lock, and I'm like, no, stop, please. You know what I mean? And again, another little thing that kind of bothers me is like when you see that face off on TV with, here's the heel, here's the baby face, they're nose to nose, and then there's this face in the middle going like this. I don't want to see that face in the middle. I want to see these two guys and the crowd behind.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Reacting.
Yeah.
Anyways, I think they, I don't know if it's intentional or not, but they tend to over exaggerate and get noticed more than they should.
I definitely see that more today. And like you said, it's not a knock on AEW, but I do see it more in AEW than I do other companies. But it is something that at times can be distracting. And I tend to live tweet the shows, whether it's Impact, AEW, WWE, whatever.
Yeah.
And I see tweets along the lines of, what is the referee doing? Why is the referee doing that? Different things about the referee where it should be about the talent. So I completely understand you being in your position, really, saying that, because it does make sense. And the fans, I think, do see it too.
Maybe it's because, being a former referee, I notice these things, and that's why I tend to call them out. One thing I don't like to call out, and I tweeted about this on Monday night on Raw, is referees who have a tell. And what I mean by a tell is, a false finish. And I go, oh, well, that ain't it. And I know because of the referee how they're reacting to it, or how they're counting, or whatever the case may be. Give you a quick example. Our producer for Aftermath up here, when SummerSlam was here in Toronto in 2019, we were sitting up in the crowd and we're watching the show, and he goes, man, I thought that was it. And I said, no. He said, how do you know? I said, no, I just know. Yeah. And then here comes another false finish, a really close one. He goes, oh, I thought that was it. And I said, I knew it wasn't it. He says, how do you know? I said, because there was a tell. And he says, what's the tell? I said, I don't want to tell you. Like, I don't want to give it out. And that's why I don't tweet it out exactly what it is, because I don't want, because like he said, once I told my producer what it was, he says, I can't unsee it now. And I don't want to do that. You know what I mean? Yes. Anyway. Yeah.
No, I completely get it. There's moments where you think it's going to be the end and it's not. And for me, being a lifetime wrestling fan, specifically WWE, there's moments where I can feel it, where, I know that's not the end, where they're going to something else.
Yes.
But whatever it is, you really can't explain it. You know better what it is. But I definitely understand the concept of what you're talking about. And in 2008, WWE ended the idea of brand exclusive referees, where everyone was kind of, there was the red, the black and white, and then there was the blue jerseys for the refs.
Yeah.
What was your thoughts or your feelings on that ending?
I kind of disliked it. I liked the brand specific talent and the brand specific referees. It was almost like an internal friendly rivalry we had amongst each other, because there was a little bit of that friendly competition going on where, hey, our show's better than yours. We're knocking it out of the park. You guys are like, you know what I mean? It wasn't malicious or anything like that. It wasn't like, WWE versus WCW back in the day, but it was fun. I thought it worked. I was sorry to see it go away. Yeah. But I understand why, because then it made everybody more, versatile and a logistics standpoint, like let's say for travel purposes, it's easier to send this referee here as opposed to the one that's way across, the other side of the continent. It made sense, but at the same time, it was nice being brand specific, and I liked the blue shirts. I thought it was cool because it was different.
Yeah, and a few months ago they had WWE did throwback SmackDown, and they had the referees wear the blue. And it was like a craze on social media where everyone was so excited, asking them to bring it back. And it felt, especially today, having, brand exclusive superstars, that would be awesome to see. I don't know why they don't do that, but I understand why, people know referees as the black and white zebra stripes. So I get it, but the blue was just the blue. That's how I remember you mostly. Blue.
I love the shirt. I still have a whole bunch of them. I'm not, people say you should, get rid. No, I'm keeping those.
And you're in blue now.
Yeah, exactly. I'm SmackDown for life, brother.
Yeah. Now, you've been involved, like we talked about, in many big moments in WWE, whether it's JBL, Edge, and Undertaker, WrestleMania. Do you have a favorite moment of your entire wrestling career?
Oh my, where do I begin? I mean, like, I hate to say it this way, but I've been blessed, man. Like you said, the biggest moment for my career is obviously WrestleMania 24, getting to referee the main event between a good friend in Edge, and I'm an Undertaker guy. Undertaker's, you know what I mean? He was our leader. And again, as you've heard from many people, he didn't appoint himself the leader. The locker room appointed him the leader. Yeah. He was the guy. And what made that even more special was being requested to referee that match by those involved. I come in, I even remember the town, going to TV at Little Rock, Arkansas, and seeing Edge there, and hey, Edge, sir, what's up? He says, hey, Jimmy, how are you? Can I talk to you for a minute? I said, absolutely. So, brought me to the side, and he said, talk to Taker, and we want you to referee our match at WrestleMania, because I was scheduled to do the TLC match.
Yeah.
There. And I said, oh, awesome. And I was like, is that going to be okay? He said, if Taker wants it, it's going to happen. You know what I mean? Like, he got what kind of, and so it was not only a huge honor, it was also like, oh boy, I want to get this right for them, because, it was their call. You know what I mean? So it was an honor. It was a blessing, and it made it even that much more special than it already was.
Wow, I got goosebumps. You just explain that, because I didn't know that was the case.
Yeah.
Being requested to be in that's an awesome moment.
Yeah.
And do you remember, or is there any specific backstage stories leading to that match that you can recall between the two, like getting ready for that match?
Not really anything backstage, except going to talk to Taker and just say, getting, once I found out I appreciate that. I said, I hope I don't let you down. And he says, we know you won't. That's why we want you here. And that was like, oh my God, I just got the nod of approval from the dead man. You know what I mean? And then it came WrestleMania day, and of course the day before WrestleMania, and I'm sitting listening into the conversation with Edge and Taker and the agent for the match, who was Michael P.S. Hayes, and they're going over everything. And they said, are you okay with taking a bump? I said, are you kidding me? Of course, whatever you guys want. And, so they were trying to figure out a way to take me out of the match completely, because that's what they wanted, a big bump and something like that. So Taker turns to me and says, are you okay with taking a big boot? I said, are you freaking kidding me? It's WrestleMania and I'm taking a big boot from you. Take my head. I don't care. Just yes, let's do it. You know, and I mean, he's cool. You know, so man, again, I don't know how to explain it any more than I was so blessed.
Wow. And you, like we said, you've been a part of so many great moments and some not so great moments, including what happened with Owen Hart when he tragically had that accident. You were the referee, or you were supposed to be the referee in that match. If you can, what happened when that whole thing happened? We know what happened, but being firsthand there, what went through your mind? What did you do? Like, what was the reaction when that first happened?
See, that's the hardest part, because like I've told the story before, but of course, right before that match was to take place, there was a hardcore match that took place in the ring. So I went out to the ring early to help the guys clear some of the debris out. And as they were playing the video of Kevin Kelly interviewing Owen as the Blue Blazer on the Tron, I was walking down the rope, holding the rope in my left hand, kicking debris out of the ring and heading towards that corner, that same corner that, you know, Owen fell. And I'm kind of paying attention to the screen, you know what I mean, at the same time. And this was all instantaneously. I felt something brush the side of my head and my shoulder, but at the same time, the top rope had like popped out of my hand, pulled out of my hand, and came back and snapped my fingers. And my reaction was, what the heck is going on? What is this? I'm ducking now. I not knowing, did somebody throw something? What's going on? So I kind of, you know, ducked my head for cover, so to speak. And when I turned around, I see Owen there laying face up, eyes wide open. And I haven't put two and two together yet. You know what I mean? I haven't, you know, processed everything. So I just kind of, you know, slowly moved over and I called out a couple of times, no response. And I obviously I knew something was wrong. But again, I haven't processed this in my brain that
it happened so fast.
So I started freaking out and calling for help from the timekeeper, who was Mark Yaton, whoever was listening, and so forth. And then, you know, everybody rushed to the ring, the paramedics, and they started with the chest compressions and stuff like that. And I just stood back watching, stunned. And it took a while for me to understand. Yes, he was supposed to make the entrance. Did did he fall? And then obviously we found out tragically later. And you know, I followed them out and watched them, you know, wheel them into the ambulance. And you know, I was a smoker at the time, so somebody handed me a cigarette because I was like,
shaking
a
up.
bundler. So I'm sitting outside smoking a cigarette, and they said to me, "You have to go to the hospital, get checked out." And I said, "No, I don't. I'm okay." But then I thought to myself, "But then I can go, you know, see if everything's cool." So I didn't realize why they wanted me to go checked out, but just to make sure everything was cool. They were being cautious, that's all. And when I was there, that's when I found out he had passed. And I called my fiance at the time, who was my wife, and John D'Amico, who worked for the production office and stuff like that. He was there, stayed with me, and I've told this a few times, and still to this day, this many years later, we were in Kansas. We were in Kansas City. We were in St. Louis the next night for Raw. I still do not remember going or how we got from Kansas City to St. Louis. Did we drive? Did we take the bus? The crew bus? Did we? It's not there.
Wow.
I just don't remember going from Kansas City to St. Louis. And, you know, when we got to TV the next day, you know, first person I ran into was Jerry Lawler. And Jerry came up to me and says, "Are you okay?" I said, yeah, you know, as best as I'm going to be. And he says, "I hate to tell you this," but he says, "You don't realize how close you became to being a bigger part of this tragedy." And I said, like, what do you mean? He says, he saw the last maybe 25 feet of the fall. He caught Owen falling. And he said his first thought was, "Oh my God, he's going to land on Jimmy."
Wow.
And then I broke down. It was horrible. And then I started feeling guilty.
Wow.
You know what I mean? There was that guilt feeling that I felt fortunate, yet this, this good friend and a father and a husband
Yeah.
you know, and a son lost his life, and I'm glad that, you know, I was spared, for lack of a better term. And I was feeling guilty about that.
Yeah.
And, you know, God bless JR, who was head of talent relations at the time. He said, you want to go home? We'll send you home right now. I said, no, I think I need to be here with everybody.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so we stayed, and then Taker came up to me and said, you know, like, you need anything, you talk to me. And I was like, wow, thank you so much. I just need to be here. I need to just process everything. And,
Yeah.
you know, ran into Vince later that day, and Vince came up, gave me a big hug.
Yeah.
And really had no words other than, you know, if you reiterated whatever, if you need anything, you let me know.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I appreciate you, you know, telling that story. I know you said it before, and you know, it's got to bring up some things. So I completely respect you, and I applaud you for being able to speak about it. It is something that's not, it's not something you want to experience, put it that way.
No, obviously not. You know, and don't get me wrong. I love this industry. I love what it's given me over the years. I still have a passion for it. There's unfortunate tragedies, you know, the loss of Owen, the loss of Eddie, who was another good friend, and stuff like that. You know, those are unfortunate parts of this industry that I love so much, you know?
Yeah. And you touched on Vince a little bit there. Is there anything, or what's the I guess the greatest lesson that you've been able to learn from Vince?
It's okay if you're the boss to be friendly with those that work for you, for lack of a better term. But at the same time, there has to be, you know, obviously there's some exceptions.
Yeah.
I mentioned them before. You take a guy like the Undertaker, you take someone like that, but at the same time, as friendly as you are with everybody, they have to know that business. He's a businessman. He has to look after his business. And I think a lot of people's misconceptions is he does things to play with people's emotions and stuff like that. And I can see where it happens at times, whether he tests people or not, and see, you know, the resolve and what they're made of. But at the same time, you know, he's got to look after his business first, and you know. But as far as personal interactions with him, I've never had I've been chewed out a grill a few times coming back from the ring, but you know, that's because, you know, he's, you know, it's his product. That's what, you know, when this happens, don't do this. I want you to do this. Okay, you got it. Next time it happens, you know, I'll do it the way you want me to do it. That sort of thing.
Of course. And today, obviously, you know, Vince being a big part of WWE, what is your relationship with the WWE today? Have you, I know we talked about it a little before. Have you been asked to come back at all in any capacity over the last whatever years?
Not officially, but every once in a while there's been talk about, hey, maybe come down and talk to these guys. But especially during this pandemic era and being up here in Canada, it's very difficult because, you know, but who knows, maybe one day. But I still keep in contact with a lot of the guys, you know. I you know, back and forth with my old riding partner, Tony Chimmel, every once in a while. And, you know, and a lot of the crew, especially Charles too, every once in a while, met, you know.
Such a great guy.
Yeah.
I've talked to Charles a few times, and he's a great guy.
Absolutely he is. And we like to kid around, you know, we have odd senses of humor. So, you know, we have fun with each other. But there are guys I keep in contact with, and, you know, every once in a while, you know, message even like a JR or Christian.
Yeah.
You know, it's cool because even when you haven't seen each other in a long, long time, you know, that relationship is still there. And it's every once in a while, it's like, hey man, cool to hear from you.
Of course, being a part of the business, everyone's part of, you know, a brotherhood and a sisterhood. It's there for life, really.
Yeah, it is. That actually is. I know it sounds very cliche, but it is. It's true.
And like I said before, or like we've been talking about here and there, Rough and Rants on Twitter. You give your 2 cents on wrestling, whatnot. It's not just one company. You talk about everything, really. And wrestling today has kind of evolved really a lot over the last few years. More options, different things like that. Knowing WWE as well as you do, in your opinion, what is the reasoning for the negative reactions that we hear about today from fans?
I think part of it is what you just said, because they've been so successful over the years. They've been for lack of a better term, the last man standing.
Yeah.
From all those years of competition, that they want to see the king get knocked off the mountain. Let's put it that way. So sometimes I think they unfairly get criticized, but a lot of times they fairly get criticized because let's put it this way. No company is perfect. All companies have their wins and fails, as I like to put it. There's stuff that WWE does that makes me scratch my head at times. Karrion Kross, that sort of stuff. So, but and then I'll watch a company that's different, like AEW has a little bit of a different presentation and different philosophy, maybe.
Yeah.
And there's some of their stuff that entertains me, then other stuff that makes me go, why did they do that?
Yeah.
Or sometimes trying to cram too much. I get it. They only have 1 2-hour show a week. I know they have the stuff on the YouTube channel, but they have 2 hours of live television every week. And sometimes I think they try to fit too much into that 2 hours.
Yeah.
Sometimes, hey, just slow it down a little bit. The talent that is featured that week, feature that talent. Don't try to cram in a whole bunch of others by trying to run them in and that sort of stuff. But anyways, and I like the fact that wrestling as a whole is doing well now, especially with the crowds coming back. And I've told people, hey, you should like all wrestling. I'm not saying be a fan of every company out there.
Yeah.
I mean, but it doesn't have to be us versus them, this company versus that company. Everybody's trying to manufacture this Monday night rehash of this Monday Night War, which I get it. It happened at the time, but now I think if the company, if the business as a whole flourishes, then everybody wins.
Yeah.
You can like whoever you want. I'm not telling you have to like Monday Night Raw or SmackDown or whatever, or you have to like AEW or Impact Wrestling or ROH, but it's good to watch all of them and get an appreciation for each one that has their different presentation, for lack of a better term.
Exactly. I tell people all the time, the best way you can compare it is to, I've never met anyone who strictly shops at Target and hates Walmart or vice versa. I mean,
there you go.
You go to both. You go to both because you like certain things from each place.
My wife and I flyer shop. It doesn't matter. And I equate it to politics. Like I'm very apolitical when it comes to like political parties. I don't care what color the lawn sign is. You know what I mean? The person speaking, if you say something that makes sense to me or resonates with me or hits me where I say, hey, yeah, I agree with that. Fine. I don't care what banner you've got flying behind you.
Yeah, I completely agree there. And I know we're talking about the topic, pro wrestling today. Do you think bringing back legends and Hall of Famers like Goldberg and John Cena help elevate today's talent, or do you think that it ultimately hurts them in a way?
I think it's a little bit of column A and column B because, again, I'm not trying to take the middle road here, but it's great having these guys come back. Like you've seen the reaction that John Cena's been getting lately. Yeah. It's almost like the song "Don't Know What You Got Till It's Gone," and seeing him get that reaction is amazing. Goldberg, I don't see him in the same light as a John Cena or Stone Cold.
Yeah.
And maybe because, coming from WCW, that's where he made his, his name, so to speak. So, but depending on how they're utilized, if you listen to the rumors out there, eventually The Rock is rumored to be coming back at some point to maybe confront his cousin and see who the real head of the table is and stuff like that. Yeah. If this talent is utilized properly to elevate the current crop of superstars, then I don't have a problem with it. You know what I mean? Like everybody says, wow, Goldberg versus Lashley. I think that match needs to be kind of like what we saw with Lashley versus Keith Lee. What happens if Lashley dominates a Goldberg at SummerSlam, and then you go, oh my goodness, he just dominated Goldberg. What's up? And then leads to whoever is next on that list, whether it is a Brock Lesnar or something like that. Now you got people going, oh.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Longer story to tell there.
Exactly. I think sometimes also there's a rush to get to the end game at times. Let the story take time and develop. I think that, yes, I know people complain that the attention span of the fans sometimes nowadays is a little short, but at the same time, telling a good story, people will wait for that finish, that end game, so to speak.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you there. And the biggest question that I have for you here, and it's a question that I've often thought about for many, many years, and it has to do with the Hall of Fame. Their Hall of Fame has obviously WWE superstars. They have the celebrity wing. They have the new Ultimate Warrior award. In your opinion, why do you think that they don't have referees inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame?
I wish I had a good answer to that. I mean, like I said
always
before,
wondered.
Yeah, I mean, like technically, yes, because Teddy Long is in the Hall of Fame, but Teddy Long has done everything. He's been a manager, he's been a general manager, he's been a referee, he's, he's handled talent. Yeah, Teddy has been a jack of all trades, so he deserves. Trust me, he deserves to be in there. But so does Timmy White.
Yeah.
So does an Earl, and both Hebners, Earl and Dave. You know what I mean? There's a lot of referees that deserve to be in the Hall of Fame, I think, because they're an integral part, like I said before, of helping the talent tell their stories, and the good referees are the ones that do that. Yeah. And there should be a wing in the Hall of Fame for referees. Why not? I wish I had a good answer as to why there isn't, but I don't have one. Other than in WWE they tend not to mention the referees by name. Occasionally they'll throw it out there.
Yeah.
But for the most part, the nameless, faceless kind of thing. And I wish there was a little more recognition from the office to the contributions that the referees make to this business.
I feel the same way. And I think, even having a wing in the Hall of Fame for referees, or some acknowledgement for what they do, what you guys do, because without you, it's not possible. They say that with the fans, but with the referees not being there at all, I mean, it wouldn't be possible.
I agree. It's a part of the story. And again, it's not about me getting my stuff in and being recognized and stuff like that. It's me doing my job correctly, which helps, the entire product overall.
I couldn't agree more. And I like to end my interviews with the same question. And it is, when your time is done with professional wrestling in its whole, what do you want your legacy to be? What do you want people to remember you by?
I would love to be remembered as not only someone who did their job in the wrestling industry, but people understand how much I was appreciative, how much I respect, and how much I love this business still to this day. And I probably will until I take my last breath. And please, I hope they all remember that, regardless of what company it is, what presentation it is. Recently, I did a ref and rant about GCW and Matt Cardona winning the title there. And although that style is not my cup of tea, I get that there is an audience for it. And I respect, especially Matt, for putting his body out there and doing what he did. I'm not going to crap on it, but just because it doesn't appeal to me. It's not my thing, right?
Yeah.
But it's, again, part of the industry. And I love the fact that people are into it. And I want people to realize that I love this business. I love wrestling. Always have, always will. And hopefully they remember that I was a contributor, even a little small part to it.
I think they very much will. And it's from, your Ref and Rants series on Twitter that I was like, wow, Jimmy's still involved in the business. I would love to, set up a chat and talk to him about everything, because referees, I mean, this is one thing in pro wrestling that, like you even said, needs more acknowledgement. So I really do appreciate the Ref and Rants that you do. And for all the fans listening and watching right now, where could they find you on social media? Because I know you like Twitter. I know that's where you do your show. Where could everybody go and find you?
Well, like you said, on Twitter, I'm at Jimmy Korderas. Very simple. Where I do my Ref and Rants weekdays. I take the weekends off, but you never know. Every once in a while, I might pop up with a something, but it's pretty much there. And on Instagram, at Real Jimmy Korderas, and on my Facebook, former WWE referee Jimmy Korderas on Facebook as well. It's where I do these Ref and Rants, and I have a lot of fun with them. I love doing them. By the way, little quick side note. that idea did not come from me. That idea was actually my wife's idea. She said,
Right.
because she would hear me, she'd be on the computer doing her work and I'm watching, and I'd rattle off about, I can't believe they did this. And she said, why don't you put that on social media? Just do a little video. So she is my camera person and my producer and director anyways.
Awesome.
But I also have Ref and Rant t-shirts out there on prowrestlingtees.com. And my wife was nice enough to make nice little mug for me. I'm going to take that.
Nice. Yeah, when you do those rants, your throat gets dry.
Yeah, I gotta have my morning coffee. You know how it is. Gotta psych myself up for these rants. And I hope people realize too that they're not meant to be totally negative and stuff. They're meant to be critiquing in a fun way that makes me want to see the business get better, regardless of which company I am talking about.
And it's interesting because you are someone who has such experience with the business. So I think fans would really want to hear someone's perspective and someone's opinion from someone who's been in the business, opposed to, someone who's on the sideline as me being a podcaster, not being in there. So I understand, why you do it. And I really do appreciate what you do.
No, I appreciate you saying that. And I look at it this way, again, not trying to pat myself on the back, but I began in the Hogan era, went through all the different, the new Attitude era and, and all that sort of stuff. And I got to see the business evolve, and I love that the business is still evolving. Yeah. As I like to say, when the wheel was invented way back in prehistoric times, it was made of stone. They made stone wheels for carts and whatever the case may be. Then they figured out wood is a lot lighter, and we'll make it from that. And then rubber, then vulcanized rubber. And the wheel has evolved over centuries and generations. But at the end of the day, the wheel is round.
Yep.
So you can evolve. I mean, you can incorporate old school into new school. I think sometimes that's one of the things that's a little bit of a problem nowadays, is everybody thinks, well, we have to evolve. We have to completely change. No, you don't have to completely change. You can just incorporate new school into old school and make it work. And I think for me, again, this is my opinion right now, NXT is doing just that. And that's why, for me, at least right now, that's my favorite show on television.
Yeah, it's mine too, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jimmy, it's been an honor and a pleasure to have you on, and to see you doing well, and to see you really just enjoying the business from the outside now, but still doing what you love. And I appreciate everything you've done for the business, all your contributions, and just more of an acknowledgement for referees all around the world, really.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. And thank you not only to you, but to other referees out there who have reached out. I try to answer you guys back as best I can. Sometimes if I missed you, I apologize, but try again. Hopefully I see it.
Awesome. Like I said, an honor and a pleasure. I'd love to stay in touch with you, and maybe we can do this again sometime. And sure. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you having me on. Thank you, Joey. Pleasure. And you take care and stay safe, please.
Thank you. Same to you. And before you go, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe down below to stay up to date with the next big interview right here on the Angle Podcast.